In addition to taking a stenographer, we will also be recording this meeting for the record. We anticipate Commissioner John Majori of the Public Service Commission to be with us today, and he will make some remarks after I finish these initial comments. Next slide, please. All right, so we will come back to these questions, but you may have received from us a notice, and the notice had these questions that we'd like people to focus on. Let me introduce, at this point, Commissioner John Majori of the Public Service Commission. Commissioner Majori, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. I'm here to listen today. I am very much looking forward to hearing what people have to say. And for everybody who's taken time out of their day to participate, I want to thank you and extend thanks on behalf of the entire commission. Your input is going to be very carefully considered in the event that anything comes before us as a result of this meeting. So thank you very much. And you're not going to hear from me again because I want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And let me echo the Commissioner's words. I'm going to speak very briefly, but then the whole purpose of this public forum and the 7 that will follow after this over the next week is to hear from you, the customers of the utilities. We want to hear whether you have received delayed bills or no bills. We want to hear whether or not you've received catch-up bills that may or may not have been explained to your full satisfaction. We want to hear if you had difficulty reaching the utility or if they did not call you back after you left the message. We want to, in other words, hear public comments about your experience with the utility. I do want to make a point, though, that we do not wish to hear formal complaints at all today. Formal complaints are confidential. We have a requirement under state law to protect your confidentiality. And so if you begin making a complaint over the phone or through your computer, we will mute your microphone and we will get back to you and talk to you about filing a complaint, which can be done by going to the Department of Public Service website at www.dps.ny.gov, where you can find a toll-free number or you can use a web form. We also have, for the purposes of this inquiry into billing matters at the 2 utilities, a special link on the front of our Department of Public Service webpage that will take you directly to a place where you can file public comments with us. So we have been at the department tracking for several months at this point, since last fall, with growing concern, the number of complaints rising in the NYSEG and RG&E service territories. We have been contacted by many thousands, in fact, of your friends, neighbors, and families. And this first forum today, the one this evening, and then the 6 over the next week, are to hear from you and to hear what your experience has been and to continue growing the record so that if and when the commission takes action, it will have as comprehensive a record as possible. So right here we have the first 3 of the questions that we are going to be asking people to address in their public comments today. And please, if you have other questions that you wish to address, that's fine, but we would like you all to remember that you are speaking as part of a large community. NYSEG and RG&E cover more than 40 counties in the state. So please remember that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And we would prefer, since we are going to be recording this and taking it down with a stenographer, that you avoid using foul language as much as possible and just stick as much as possible to your experiences with the utility. I'd also like to point out that if you have very lengthy comments prepared, I ask that you summarize them and submit your comments in writing to us. And the reason for that is we have 150 people on the line today. We expect to have many more people tonight and over the next several days. And people will be getting 3 minutes each. Elected officials will be getting more time because they represent many of you. but in 3 minutes, that goes by very quickly when you're making public comments. So please focus on the most important parts of whatever your statement is, and if it is very long, send the rest of it to us at the Department of Public Service. Next slide, please. Here are our final three questions. We'll go back one. Here are the final three questions that we're looking for. We've heard a lot of talk about difficulties with what we can call complex billing. That is, if you're receiving service from a community distributed generation provider or community choice aggregation, or perhaps even solar panels or some other form of renewable energy, that those customers may have been having issues also. If you receive service through an energy service company called ESCOs in New York, again, we're asking if you've had any difficulties with that service, receiving bills or anything like that today. Next slide, please. So for those people that are online, if you hover your mouse over the bottom right of the screen, there is a hand. Click on the hand. We actually have you all in order because you signed up in order. And so we'll be calling you off by order over the period of this forum. If you are not there when we call your name, we will circle back in 5 or 10 minutes and try again and try again. And then eventually, when we get to the end and have heard from everybody else who was here when we called their name, we'll give people who are not here another chance to speak up. And as Joe had said earlier, if you're having technical difficulties, call us at 800-342-3330. Next slide, please. We have upcoming in-person public forums tomorrow, 2 of them in Somers, New York. For those of you who haven't been to that lovely part of Westchester, it's in northern Westchester. Next week, we have 2 in Rochester and 2 in Binghamton. And I want to add, by the way, if you are calling in on your phone because you don't have access to the internet where you are or you're in your car, you can do *3 to raise your hand so that you can get attention. But we have the people who signed up already by phone in our list of commenters today. So I expect that will go fairly well. Next slide, please. And I'm going to leave these up while we're asking people for their comments so that if you've missed any of this, you can just read it off the screen if you're online. Let me now go to the first person signed up who is calling in, Joanne Thomas. If you can unmute yourself, or if we can have the host unmute you, please speak.
Go ahead, Ms. Thomas. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to hear what's been going on. I'm just here to say that I've had numerous issues. I called Rochester Gas and Electric on October 19th, November 10th, December 12th, December 13th, and January 12th. I still have not had my issue resolved. I asked for my calls to be pulled and a supervisor to call me back, and I'm still waiting. Along with, we were on, I don't know how much detail you need, but we were on budget billing, and they deducted more out of our account than what was owed. No one can explain it. And I did billing for 17 years. When I speak to the representatives, they can't even tell me when my bill is generated, let alone explain the discrepancies in the bill. That's what we've been experiencing to this date, and we still have not had a supervisor call us back. They advised us that there are not supervisors available and that one would call us back within 24 hours. And I'm still waiting.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Did you have anything more?
Nope, that's what we're dealing with, and I'm hoping that this can get resolved as soon as.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jan Tasberg, and after, I believe, Ms. Tasberg, we have Ava Pierce. But first, Jan Tasberg.
I'm not seeing a new hand raise. Yeah, Director Berkeley, can we have everyone lower their hands, please, by hitting *3 on their phone so that we can see who you're calling on? Much appreciated, folks. It makes it easier for us to find the next person that's speaking. Not sure this could still be the person that just spoke, but I'll unmute them. Go ahead, your line has been unmuted. Okay, I think that's our same person that was just called upon. You can move to the next person.
Okay, if we can move on then to Ava Pierce.
It's possible is Ava calling in from someone else's phone, because I don't see a new hand raised.
It's possible, although she's listed in the attendees list, Joe.
Is it EVA?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. I apologize. Thank you.
Ms. Pierce?
Oh,
Can you hear me? I'm on the computer. This is Eva Pierce.
we can hear you, Ms. Pierce. Thank you.
Speak a little louder, please, if you can.
Trying to talk. And I can't talk. I don't know how to make it. Yes, thank you. Bye, I love you. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Pierce.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you
Please
hear
go
me
ahead.
now? Hello?
Go ahead, Ms. Pierce. We can hear you.
Hello?
She can't hear us, Director Berkeley. We might want to move to the next person and go back to.
Okay, let's come back to Ms. Pierce. Our next sign-in was Anna Brown. Ms. Brown, you can raise your hand by hitting *3 on your phone.
I'm going to ask your permission to lower everybody's hand. This could be her here at the bottom. We'll see. Is this you, Ms. Brown? Can you hear us, Ms. Brown?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi. Thank you for having this forum. I greatly appreciate it. Our issues continue, have been started since the fall, and looking for some support. I will submit in writing a more detailed thing of what we're experiencing right now. A lot of our monthly bills have been estimates, and the estimates do not reflect what our actual usage is. Since we have gone to a digital meter that they insisted that we have installed. So that's our issue at the moment.
Thank you. Do you have anything else that you would like to comment upon?
When I have called NYSEG with my issues, usually you have to leave a message, and it's usually a 3+ hour wait, if not the next day. They have always called back, but again, you cannot get to talk to a supervisor, you talk to a representative, and they don't have all the answers to your questions, and they're not up to date on all the policies.
Thank you. If you're finished, Ms. Brown, I will call the next speaker, and that is Alexander Sweet. Mr. Sweet, are you on the phone or on your computer? Alexander Sweet? All right, Joe, we'll come back to Mr. Sweet. Next, we have Jackie McClaney. Ms. McClaney, are you on the phone?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please
Okay,
go
great.
ahead.
All right. So I'm calling in regards to a few things. So I have property and I had RG&E where I was requesting that they would turn on some power for me. And this was all the way back in November. I had them come out to the house in November and I asked them if they could contact me prior to coming because that is not my residence and they require that there's an adult there. Um, so anyway, I set up and had everything arranged for them to be able to come on the 28th. When they came, they ran into a problem, but I was never ever notified, and no one had ever called me to tell me that they were on their way. So it was almost a month later before I was able to kind of follow up and have them come back out to the property. Again, I request for them to call me because this is not my residence, and they only give you a time period of 8 to 4 with, for you just to be there. And I work, so it's not as if I can just take off and just sit there and wait for an apartment power to be turned on. So anyway, I once again asked them to give me a call so that I could meet them there. I had arranged to be off on December 28th. And at that time, no one called, no one contacted. Then they said that they couldn't get into the basement, but that wasn't true because there is no lock on the door. So I had to reschedule again, and then it was for January the 4th. And they finally came out to the building, and they tried to turn on the power, and they were able to turn the power on for one, but they weren't able to turn it on for the other. But that was on January 4th. By January 19th, I got a bill. The apartment that didn't have any power, and no one is in these apartments, and there is no power technically running. I received a bill for $75 and one for $101. There's absolutely no way I should have a bill for that amount. And no one has been able to answer or follow up with the call. And then in addition to that, your supervisors never call back. They tell you a 24-hour wait period, and I have yet to get that call. And the other little piece that I want to add in here is very concerning when you think of elderly people that need to try to get in contact with RG&E, and they're waiting on the line for an hour plus, get hung up on, and then it's press this button, press that button. And because I help my mother with a lot of different things, this would just be, a horrendous, opportunity or I'm looking at the number, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. It's horrendous that they would be caught up in the matrix of all those press this number, press that number, and not get the help that they need. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Ms. McClaney. Our next commenter is Catherine Fisher.
If you're present, Ms. Fisher, please hit *3 on your phone. That'll raise your hand for us. Thank you. Director Berkeley, I don't see any raised hands.
I think Ms. Fisher is actually on her computer and not on her phone. So Ms. Fisher, if you can hear me, click on the little hand that's in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Ms. Fisher? Okay, we'll move on to the next person and we'll circle back for these folks. Next person is Lois Bierman. Ms. Dearman, are you on the phone? If so, you can raise your hand by hitting *3. Lois Dearman, are you on the line with us now? Okay, we'll come back to Ms. Dearman also. Next is Susan sorry, Susan Sapkowski.
Susan, you'll need to hit *3 to let us know that you're there. I don't see, Director Berkeley, I don't see a raised hand.
Yeah, I don't see her on the attendees list. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Okay, that ends the call-ins for now. And as I said, we'll be coming back to these folks later on in the forum. Next up, we have Warren Lucas, who is the supervisor of the town of North Salem. Supervisor Lucas, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the bills. As you mentioned, I'm a supervisor of town of North Salem. It's a smaller town down in Westchester County. We have about 5,300 people here. I get calls, many calls every week about NYSEG billing. It's very similar to probably the problems a lot of other people are having. In fact, I called them up about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, to ask about my bills because I can't understand them, and I'm pretty good at this. And of course, I got a message saying that they would call me back. I could wait for an hour plus, or they would call me back in an hour plus. So I opted to have them call me back in an hour plus, and that was 2 hours ago. I still haven't gotten a call back. They're usually very good about that. But the bills are horrific. They're horrendous. They're not understandable. I'm on auto pay. I'm getting things going month to month where I haven't paid last bills. They're leaving the community solar off. I think most of these bills are probably done by hand still, but they're an absolute disaster. I'd be happy to send them up as an example to you folks. The meters are being read incorrect. They're estimated for me. They're estimated for over a year. For my constituents, I have people that are estimated, for months at a time, and then they get an actual reading. And then when I did the actual reading and sent it in, they had somebody come out the next day and they read it. And of course, they read it wrong. And I have the picture of the meter that I read. So a lot of these things for me around billing, it is incomprehensible that a normal person can figure out what their bill is. My confidential secretary, she just got her bill today at $600. Of course, she uses very little electricity. So what I would request, and I'm sure your folks are aware of it, is that whatever they do, they have to fix the billing systems and they have to read meters accurately all the time. I'm hoping the electronic meters fix that, but the billing system is absolutely horrific and I don't understand the problem. It's a pretty simple, this is what I delivered to you and this is what you pay. And they can't seem to get it right. Over the last few months, I've had bills of minus $54, of $400. I just got a bill last week, $463.77. And if I looked at it, I used a total of 823 kilowatts. And it was $463.77. And it's an auto pay. And of course, they didn't take that much out. They took $453 and some odd cents out, just about 10% less. So I am totally confused, and I'm the one trying to explain it to all my other constituents because they can't get NYSEG on the line to explain it to them. So I thank you very much for having this, and I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody in any detail. Thank you.
Okay, Director Berkeley? You might be muted on your end, sir. There you go. Now we can hear you. Are you having difficulty?
Mayor Schenk, we can't hear you. Can you turn up mute on your computer?
Did you call the next speaker, sir?
Yeah, let's move on to Supervisor Michael Ferrara. Supervisor Ferrara, are you on?
I don't see that person, sir.
I do not either. I think that Catherine Fisher, Ms. Fisher just called in, Joe. If you can unmute her.
Sure.
Let's put her on
No
now.
problem. Yep. Unmuted. Go ahead, Ms. Fisher.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I am a budget billing customer of NYSEG, and I've repeatedly tried to call them, and I have written them a letter because I want an audit of my account. Around about the end of August, they started estimating my bill. I had about a $1,400 to $1,200 credit, and now I'm down to $700, even though my lifestyle has not changed in any way. As a matter of fact, we've been even more careful because of the uptake in costs. So now my budget is down to $700, and they're estimating me against my neighbors who all have, I would say, more people living in their homes, a lifestyle that would take more electricity, like, TVs and things like that. So I asked for that audit in writing, and I've yet to hear anything. I also asked for actual meter readings because I do not have an electronic meter, and I am tired of being estimated month after month after month because they always estimate me way higher than any electricity I would actually use. And I don't know what to do from here. I mean, yes, I can make a formal complaint with you guys, but the fact remains is they're taking my money and they're not showing me where it's going.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I can't think of anything. It's just, I'm not the wealthiest person in the world. I can't afford this. I can't afford losing this kind of money. I can't afford $218 electric bills when my lifestyle has actually gotten more tighter on electricity, not not extravagant. And they won't answer their 800 numbers. They won't answer letters. They just don't do anything.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Our next speaker is Mayor David LeClaire. Mayor LeClaire, are you on the line?
I'm not able to pull up that name electronically. Maybe they called in.
Mayor LeClaire, if you called in, you can raise your hand by doing *3.
LECL.
AIR, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that name.
Okay, let's keep going, and we'll circle back for the mayors and the town supervisor shortly.
Okay.
Next on our list is Cheryl D'Amico. Ms. D'Amico, are you on?
Yep. Gotcha. There you are, Mr. Miko. Go ahead.
Hi, I am a senior who lives in Geneva. I'm a NYSEG customer. I had filed a formal complaint with the PSC back in March of 2022. It's been quite a while, almost a year. I did receive a letter in December about my complaints. I have electric and gas through NYSEG. I'm on auto pay. I receive my bills monthly and the electronically. I read my own meters every month. I have low usage. I do have two ESCOs, two different ESCOs for my supply, and I did have CDG credits through community solar. I received no bills at all from October 2021 until March of 2022 when I got a bill for that period of time electronically telling me that it was going to be auto paid $1,200 out of my account at the end of March of last year. I immediately went down to the NYSEG office, tried to straighten it out, ended up on a payment agreement because I was going on a trip and I didn't want them to take all $1,200 out. I stopped my auto payments. I went on budget billing. I requested manual bills, and they were telling me they had to make them manually because of the CDG. this past month, I received, the payment agreement expired and I had got a bill for about the same amount, saying that I could enter into a new payment agreement after discussing it with the escalation department if I wasn't happy. So I talked to them in person and asked them to call me because they didn't answer two of my messages that I left at the number that was on the notice from the PSC. I've been continually reading my meters. In October of this past year, I had called Community Solar and told them I wanted to disenroll because it was holding up my bills. The answers I got from NYSEG all along this process were that, oh, it must be because you have two ESCOs. Well, I talked to both ESCOs and they were both getting the readings that I was sending in from NYSEG and sending back the information in their time frame, in time for NYSEG to figure out the bills, but they weren't doing it. They were so far behind because my account is locked. To this day, it has not been unlocked, and that was the last calls I made to the escalation department that went unanswered. Unlock my account. It doesn't need to be done manual anymore. I got rid of the solar credits that I so much wanted because my family is in a solar business, and it seems like NYSEG doesn't care that you want to use your credits for your alternative energy sources. They want all the money themselves. That's my take on it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Beth or Elizabeth Shaw. Ms. Shaw, are you on the line?
Ms. Shaw, if you called in, please raise your hand by hitting *3 on your phone. I don't see Ms. Shaw. I do have a call-in user. Let me just double check. Go ahead if this is Ms. Shaw. Ms. Shaw, you've been unmuted if that is you. Okay, that person might not have been Ms. Shaw. The next person is available.
Okay. Next, we have Carmen Rollinson.
Hello?
You've been unmuted.
Can you
Yes,
hear
you've
me?
been unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. I work with a nonprofit, and so I'm calling regarding buildings that we have in a different county, so I'm an hour away from it. One of the problems, mostly what we're having, is the cost of the facilities there when we don't occupy it. For an example, a building that we occupy 25 hours a month, we've received bills of $1,000. This is with RG&E. $712. Each time I have disputed it, and it has been credited, but customer service is my other complaint, in that you receive a response of a person. Eventually, they take the information, and the feedback isn't there. You might get, as I said, we got the credit, but there's no continuation. We recently had a project where they did some excavating, and I was worried about possible gas leak. But because I'm not on the premises, I can't smell it. And so even that took a few calls before it was addressed, and there was no gas leak. But I would think something like that would top, response. The other, well, those are the basic complaints. As far as billing, there is overlap as far as we receive all the bills, but there's overlap as far as the periods they cover, where one will be an actual, then the next month it's an estimate, but it's the same time period. And so that's confusing too. So you have to pay careful attention to all these little details. I will summarize this in more detail and send it to you separately, but those are the issues that I'm receiving or experiencing with RG&E. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Renee Sutton.
Hi, I'm Renee Sutton. I'm from Canandaigua, New York, and I was we had community choice aggregation in our community, and that seems to be According to what RG&E folks are telling me, the problems are as the source of the problems I've been experiencing. My problems really started in February of 2022, or I'm sorry, March 1st of 2022, when I received a bill for $943.26. My prior bills had all been credits, or I was, and this is for electricity only. I also, we had community choice aggregation and community solar. I was having some pretty low bills, and then I get whacked with a statement that was dated March 1st, 2022 for $943.26, which I paid promptly. I then didn't receive a bill again from RG&E until May 30th. It's funny, I actually received 4 bills dated May 30th, all with those succeeding months of service periods. And what they did was they credited me back my $943.26 and an additional $1,000 that I cannot make reconcile. I've tried to work with customer service to understand what was going on, and was constantly told, well, it's due to your ESCO, it's community choice aggregation. There was no accountability for explaining to me, as the utility accountable, to tell me what my bill was, how they were doing so accurately. I was just incensed that $943 came out of my pocket, and although I was credited it, I'd rather have it in my account earning interest than have it in their account earning them interest. The response to this has just been infuriating, in that there hasn't been much of one, and what there has been insufficient. And the time that has gone by for for RG&E to solve this problem, it's incredible. Another issue I continue to report is that I receive bills that that have statement dates on them that are before the prior bill is even due. How can they send me a new bill before the prior bill has even been done? And why are payments taking so long to be posted? My bank is assuring me that payment was delivered on one date, and I'm not seeing the payment being posted to my account on RG&E until 4 or 5 days later. So I'm just having some, I'm fortunate that I was able to pay that bill in that time, but I feel just so terrible for community members that for whom this is just such a drain on them of time and resources to try and get this straightened out. I want to pay for what I've used. I want to have the option of using an ESCO and using renewable energy sources, and RG&E's really kind of ruined that for me. So those are my comments. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. Our next speaker is Kevin Smith. Mr. Smith, are you on the line?
You might have called in, maybe *3. If you hit *3 on your phone, we'll be able to unmute you if we see you. We do see a raised hand. That could be Kevin. Would you like me to?
Yes, go ahead, John.
Sure. Hi, Kevin. You've been unmuted if that's you. No, it wasn't Kevin. The next person is available, though. If you'd like to move
Okay.
to that person.
Next is Brian Buxton. Mr. Buxton, are you on the line?
Brian, you've been unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. So the situation that I have is with RG&E. I'm in the Rochester area. I am a property owner, landlord, if you will, and deal extensively with tenants moving out and switching utilities back into our name and then back out of our name into the tenant's name when new people move in. And the issues that we have had over the past several months to year have just been crazy with regard to specifically meter readings. We establish a new account in our name, or we take it out of our name into a new tenant's name. And when they establish these accounts, they use estimated meter reads, which are wildly inaccurate. We then go to the property, take the actual reads, take photographs of the meters, call into their customer service, give them the reads, or email them into their customer service email address, which we've been instructed to do. And basically this information that we're providing to try to get the bills to be accurate is ignored. We continue to get rebilled time and time again for energy that we did not use based on the actual meter reads. And when you try to call them to address the situation, to try to rectify it. The hold times are astronomical, hours. I personally don't have hours to just sit and linger on the phone line and wait for somebody to pick up. When you do speak with somebody, they tell you that you've reached the wrong department. They try to bounce you over to another department. You get disconnected in the meantime, which if you've spent an hour or two on hold is extremely frustrating. Or sometimes you just sit on hold for a long period of time just to simply be disconnected. The phone line just hangs up on you. And it gets to the point where, you got to look at these bills and you say, okay, the bill is $150 and maybe they're off by $50. How much time am I wasting on the phone with these guys to try to rectify this? And ultimately we pay the bill because we have to move on with our lives. And I'm not saying that that's part of their grand scheme, but it always seems to work in their favor. And it's an extremely frustrating situation. So to summarize, it's primarily inaccurate meter readings, estimates on brand new accounts when the meters are outside of the property in plain view where they can easily be read by somebody from the company, but they choose not to. And it just seems that these estimates are continually in the favor of the utility company and have not once been in the favor of the customer, at least in my experience. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you hearing me out.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Laura Ocasio. Ms. Ocasio, if you called in, please use *3 to unmute your phone. Okay, let's move on to the next one, Joe. Our next speaker is, and forgive me if I mispronounced your name, Aaliyah Muadin.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, very good. Okay. So I just have a couple of little complaints, I guess. I don't have like a major issue like everybody else seems to be having. It's just primarily the long wait times. Like I'll call to have like a simple question, and one time I had to wait 3 hours just to get through, and that was to the ESI department. I email them a question, and it's through 3 or 4 weeks before I get an answer. And my most recent thing was we had just bought another property, and we had the meter turned on, and everything went very well with that. But then we went to pay the second bill of the in the thing, and they had turned on budget billing for us, which we did not want because it's going to be a rental, so there's nobody in there, so there's no budget to do yet. So we turned it off twice on the website, in consecutive months, and then the third time it kept turning back on. So finally I had to call in. I waited an hour and a half, and then finally she was able to turn it off. But that took 3 months to do that. And let's see. I think that's about it. I also know that the estimates are always crazy, so I try and to do every month do the actual readings and then get that in on time, because otherwise the bills do go crazy. Okay, I think that's it for me. Thing to do.
Our next speaker is Mary Ellen Fry. Ms. Fry, are you on the line?
It's possible she called in, Director.
Ms. Fry, if you called in with your phone, please hit *3 to unmute yourself. Okay, let's move on to the next speaker. We have Brian Dill. Mr. Dill, are you on the line?
Possible that they called in.
Mr. Dill, if you called in and hit *3, that'll unmute your telephone. Okay, let's move on to Ms. Vali Kovari.
You've been unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vali Koveri. I have had many of the same experiences, so I won't repeat and be redundant, but I'd just like to address this more to the state. And that is the NYSEG in our case is communicating with us. They are not telling us in any kind of English language that our accounts have been receiving solar credits. In my case, not an ESCO. I didn't even know the difference between the two different kinds of companies. They use the initials in the miscellaneous section, the acronym, but they have a index of the acronyms and it's not on there. The word solar doesn't appear anywhere. So what I'm thinking is that the state is not helping to promote solar energy as an awareness, as something that's easy, that's helpful. I couldn't figure out whether I was saving any money doing it or losing money. I couldn't figure out, and I put quite a bit of time into it, how to make it work. I finally did get through to NYSEG. The young man who served me had studied environmental science, and he said, wow, yeah, it seems like we could be promoting solar and alternative energy, and it's in the interest of the state, and yet they're not doing it at all, neither in their flyers nor in their bills, which we get supposedly every month. Of course, we haven't been. I think they're not only administratively behaving incompetently, but I think that the demands from the state should be very clear that if they hold this role, which is to be the funnel for information back and forth about alternative energy on behalf of our government and private companies and customers, there needs to be a better conduit. And the state, I think, is in a position not just to clean up the NYSEG conduit, but maybe to create a different one so that they are not having all of this communication in their hands. And I don't know what the laws are. I don't know whether that the implications of what I've just said. I just think that it's unconscionable that they're not helping to promote alternative energy in the state when it helps us, it helps the community, it helps them. They make more money if we use alternative energy, and it's better for the world. So I think that it's a really missed opportunity, and it's not just about administrative glitches and maybe even incompetence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kovari. Our next speaker is Judith Swan. Ms. Swan, are you on the line?
Ms. Swan, if you called in, please hit *3 on your line and we'll see your hand is raised. Thank you. Director Berkeley, no raised hands, but the next caller is present on the computer. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Next caller, I'm sorry, the next speaker is Mary Ellen and Jay, and forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Geezy?
Easy. Yes. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Good. We are rural customers in the RG&E, and we have serious billing issue. I think we get the prize for last July, we got a bill from RG&E for $4,240.67 for 1 month. And that was, I thought, a problem with decimal points. But it turned out that it wasn't. Of course, I called right away and had the exact same problems that other people did with being cut off and not being sent to a supervisor. So, and I requested that someone come and help, or how do I get help? And they said, your meter works fine, and you just need to put your $4,200 on a payment plan. They had basically been estimating our bills, of course, as you could tell, and not figuring it out. We had been only sometimes handing in our meter readings, so that was our fault. And now we do it every single month because, you know, we need to. But the bottom line is now we pay an extra $360 a month in addition to our what they say is our bill. So most concerning And I'm really not sure that indeed we did owe $4,240.67. So
More to the point, the bills themselves are lots of times inaccessible and ununderstandable. They,
yeah, not enough detail. We did learn how to go to the website and figure out all of as much things as we possibly could. But yeah, it's been an issue for us. And honestly, we're sort of old, and we have always been happy with RG&E up until all of a sudden we recognized that we should have been paying more attention because they aren't. So thank you for having us be able to vent here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Darlene Spencer. Ms. Spencer, are you on the line?
It's possible Ms. Spencer called in today. If you did call in, please hit *3, and the next person is available.
Ms. Spencer, if you called in on the phone, please hit *3, and that will raise your hand. Let's move on to the next person. We have Deborah Oltz, O-L-T-Z. If I mispronounced it, my apologies.
Yes, I'm on the line.
Good.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm calling in regard to my granddaughter. She's a single mom with a 5-year-old, moved into a rental property in Cayuga County in November. The day after she got moved in, the landlord asked her to please call NYSEG, which is our only option here in Cayuga County, to have the electric switched over into her name. And she made that call and had to wait 2 hours, but she finally got through to somebody. And they said that they would get that done. They would have to call the previous person on Monday and get it switched over. So she went the weekend with no heat or no electric in her name. However, it was on the other person's name. So on Monday, they sent out someone and shut the electric off. So she comes home from work on Monday night, a new job, and has no electric. She tried to call them, waited over 2 hours, kept getting hung up on, finally got transferred to the after hours people. They told her it was not an emergency, even though it was 30-some degrees and she had a 5-year-old and no electric and no heat. It took her over 22 hours on the phone, on hold, being switched back and forth the accounts, being hung up on, until finally the following Friday, her landlord called and went up one side of some person and down the other, and he finally got someone out there to turn it back on. In the meantime, they told him all kinds of rude things, like she had account service problems. She'd never had a NYSEG account before, that she shouldn't have needed the electric, all kinds of stupid stuff. They finally did get her on the phone that Friday morning and got the previous owner, her previous rental person, on the phone and went over confidential information with both of them on the phone. Names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, last 4 digits, social security number. She didn't know that person, and she had no right to have that information. Totally inappropriate.
Thank you, Ms. Oltz. Do you have more?
That's all. That's enough.
Thank you for speaking tonight, then. Our next speaker is Megan Connors. Ms. Connors, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I am a stay-at-home mom in Buffalo, New York. We are a middle-class family, a single income with 2 children, and we have NYSEG for our electric service. Calling today in regards to similar concerns about incompetency at the customer service and administrative level. I did not receive a bill for 5 months from them. Every month, though, as per my typical process of household billing, I would enter my account online and check for balance due, at which point every single month it said that $0 were due for that month. I repeatedly would go in every single month on the same day of the month. Last month, at the beginning of January, I received an email from them for the first time ever, notifying me that I had a bill due of over $1,000. It was $1,019.62, and that also I had a shut-off notice. This was complete shock, and just very disappointing. Again, it's a security concern when you have children in the house. I called after waiting 2 hours. I opted to receive a call back and spoke with a customer service representative who official answer to what had occurred was that there were meter reads that were out of line. I asked for further clarification on what that actually meant because all of our meter reads had been listed as estimated on their website. They refused to clarify further or expand on that answer at all. It was as if it was a robot just repeatedly saying, meter reads out of line, meter reads out of line. I asked for a supervisor. I was told that one would call me back. It has never happened. I was then directed that my only option was to join a payment plan.
Thank you. Do you have anything further, ma'am?
Nope, just adding customer, concerns is that, you just don't feel like you can trust this company that is solely responsible for your electric utility. We have vast concerns because we have no other option in our area. So just have to trust them.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. Our next speaker is Edward Looney. Mr. Looney, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for your patience listening to all of us. I'm a NYSEG customer in Chemung County, Pine City, New York. And I have both the supply and the delivery from New York State Electric and Gas. Electric only, no gas. What I've experienced, I thought it was just me until I've started hearing about all these other issues. Every month I pay all my bills on the first of the month. And in the past, my NYSEG bill was always here on time in order to pay with all the other bills. Now, every month for about the last 6 months, there's no bill. And matter of fact, tomorrow is the first. So I just looked online just before this meeting to see if the bill has been generated yet. And no, it shows zero. It sounds like very much like the previous woman. And I always wondered so what I do is I call in to the customer service representative and they take a look at my account and they say somehow it's stuck in the computer. They don't know why because they look to see if there's an issue with the readings and there's no issue with the readings being out of line, and they're able to punch a few buttons and release my bill to me each month. So the next day I'm able to look online and see what I owe and go ahead and pay it. And within a few days I do receive the bill. By the way, they read my meter every other month, and I have not had an issue with accuracy. And then the months in between, I read my meter myself and send it into them. So there's no issue with that. I'm not on auto pay. I'm not on budget billing. I initiate bill pay through my bank. I do want to say that I don't think that I've read that the state is putting a $600 to $800 million, I forgot the exact number, to credit bills for people who are overdue, et cetera. And I don't think that the state I think they should put that on hold until these billing issues get resolved if the company is not, billing properly. And finally, I analyzed a bill a few months ago versus the previous year for the same usage, almost exactly, I noticed a 50% increase in the rate charged, and I'm not sure if that's authorized or not. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Looney. Our next speaker is Mark Taylor. Mr. Taylor, are you on the line?
Possible that Mr. Taylor called in?
Mr. Taylor, if you called in, please hit *3 on your telephone, and that will raise your hand and we can unmute you. Mr. Taylor? Let's move on to our next speaker, Christy Mather. Ms. Mather, are you on the line? Ms. Mather, if you called in, you can unmute yourself by hitting *3 on your telephone. Let's move on to the next. Our next speaker is Diana Easton. Ms. Easton, are you on?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm a Rochester RG&E customer. I do receive gas and electric from them, not on a budget billing. I started having issues of not receiving bills for several months. When I realized that I was not receiving my bills, I contacted RG&E. I had the same issues with calling in. You would be on the phone for a long period of time. You'd be disconnected, or you'd be switched to another department. I was originally told that I had a credit to my account of $143 and change. And I know that I didn't have any credit. I should be getting a bill. So I had asked them to please send me a actual bill. When I started to receive the bills, through that phone call, they were telling me that I was part of the meter reading issues that they were experiencing. I do have an older meter. I live in an apartment complex. So they were telling me that the meter reading was incorrect. So that's where my billing issues started. When they did finally send me a bill, I had a bill for $135, which I paid right away. And then when I asked them for more clarity in my billing, they sent me another bill and it was over $1,000. Recently I have made payment arrangements with them. And that was only after I had already filed a claim with PCS. And I just don't know if the bills are actually correct on what my usage is. So, I mean, right now I'm making the payments. But I agree with everybody here. It's an issue. In Rochester, we've had an enormous issue of billing issues and customer service issues. Thank you for taking my call today.
Thank you, Ms. Easton. Our next caller is Christopher Branham. Mr. Branham, are you on the line?
I don't see that person. Maybe they called in. *3 on your phone would raise your hand.
Trying for Christopher Branham one more time. Mr. Branham, are you there? If you called in on your phone, please hit *3 and we'll see your hand. Okay, our next caller is Heather Coyne, C-O-Y-N-E. Ms. Coyne, are you on? If you called in, you can raise your hand on your telephone with *3.
Possibly, yes, possible they called in, but I don't see a raised hand. Sorry.
Okay. Our next speaker is Faye Benson. Is Benson, are you on the line?
Can you hear me? Go ahead. You're sounding very muffled. So you might want to get closer to whatever device you're speaking into.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Very muffled.
Still can't hear you, Ms. Benson.
Pretty shortly, I'll change the mic.
Sounds like your microphone might be covered.
Okay, hear me.
Joe, can you repeat the helpline number for her for technical assistance?
Actually, Xenia, can you pull that up on the screen? And then we'll go from there. It's 1-800. Yep. So it's 1-800-342-3330.
And Ms. Benson, if you can solve the technical problem on your end, I'll call you back again in a little bit.
Yep. 1-800-342-3330. We should just leave that slide up for now, I think.
Yeah.
How about now? I switched mics.
There we go. Perfect.
Ah, much better.
Could you spell your name? Could you say your name for the court reporter, please?
Fay, F-A-Y, Benson, Mr.
Thank
Fay
you.
Benson.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Yes, so I'm glad you're having this. It's very timely. My original problem with NYSEG, and I thought they were accurate, was in May of 2022, they received a notice that they had a problem since 2019 with my meter. So they refigured it, and I only owed another $140. So I just paid it. We do have solar here, full solar. We have a farm, and we have it on our barn. So our bills are usually only never over $50 a month. And then starting in May of last year, I received no bills till January of this year, this past month or this month. And I had tried to reach out to them, but I only could get the recordings. And they eventually just sent me a bill that, so they thought the readings on my generation for my solar was as much as 990,000 kilowatt hours. And that was in the off peak, which what I have for off peak is nighttime. And it's crazy, and it makes no sense. And like everybody's been saying, I can't trust them. And it's not a very comfortable feeling to send a check to somebody you can't trust. So I did pay them what I thought I owed them. I have sent a letter to the Public Service Commission as well as NYSEG, trying to get some response. And that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. A quick question for you. When you said you sent us a letter, did you file a formal complaint?
I don't know it to be, I sent it to the New York State Public Service Commission, Empire State Plaza, Agency Building Number 3.
Okay.
And it just said to whom it may concern. I'm not sure what constitutes a formal complaint.
Got it.
I include, the letter I sent to NYSEG and the problems I've been having.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Scott Sherwood. Mr. Sherwood, are you on the line?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, please go ahead.
I'm in Tompkins County, NYSEG customer. I own a campground, and we basically have 6 of our 9 meters turned on in April, turned off in late October. For the past 2 seasons now, the other thing we have that's different than most is we have commercial demand meters because our demand is quite high in the summer when we're full of RVs. The past 2 years, a couple of my demand meters, I wouldn't receive bills the entire season, and the demand meters are the biggest bills we have. And I would call knowing they weren't showing up. In 2021, I was told, they just weren't getting readings on this one particular. In 22, they were getting the readings, but no bill is being generated on a different demand meter. So in 21, in November, after we'd closed, I received a $12,000 bill for one of the demand meters. And then this year it happened again on a smaller demand meter. in November, I got a $5,000 bill, and it was for the entire season. And so it's gotten more and more common. You know, I know how many I'm supposed to get 9 bills a month. I'll routinely get 4 or 5. They'll trickle in here or there, and I'll make repeated calls in an effort to get those bills sent because I know what happens at the end of the year. Same thing as everybody else. It's hard getting through to people, hard getting calls back. And the other thing that, you know, and I realize this is, you know, this may not be the place and I could send a formal complaint in, but the rates have gone through the roof. I just compiled our yearly data for our accountant, and our electric costs went up 83%, 2022 over 2021. And that's, you know, it's unaffordable for a business to cover those kind of expenses. We can only raise rates so much. So it just continues to be an issue more and more. Delayed billing, absurd rates, and so forth. So hopefully something will come of this, and I would, you know, welcome, you know, further conversation if somebody would like to hear from us.
Thank you, Mr. Sherwood. Our next speaker is Dan Casper. Mr. Casper, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Recently, I'm a father of 10. 4 of them are special needs. So billing is something that we are very detailed on. Spent most of September arguing with RG&E. We got our bill in June was the last one at $270 on budget billing. We received the next one the end of September at $296. I called up just asking why there's a difference in the bill and the budget billing. They said they re-rated because we had an overage estimate on our gas, and that actually we were getting a discount with that. So going up $26, I don't see how there's a discount. But then 2 weeks later, I receive a bill for $890, and that doesn't include the $296 that's sitting there, and it's coming out 2 weeks later via direct deposit or direct bill pay. So I tried putting a stop to that. They still took it out, and they took out the other one that was 2 weeks prior for the $296. Then on 11/4, I received a bill for $1,300, and they said, well, that's because you had a budget deficiency for 6 months, and next month you're also going to receive another bill for $725, which is also a budget deficiency that wasn't covered. So I paid out over $4,000 in the past 6 months to RG&E with no answers on anything. I called up and asked to speak to a supervisor. I spent 3 hours, and they said, well, we could send you a bill that we have here via your email. It's not in your portal, but this is a bill from 3 months ago that you never got, but we decided here this is for you. And I tried explaining being in a business that I didn't understand how you could get a bill sent to you that wasn't generated, and now you're being told you owe it when the bills afterwards kept on showing a zero balance. And then since then, I've stayed off budget billing. It has gone up about $150 a month overall, just because I can't deal with the headache of it. But I spent over 5 hours on the phone with RG&E between it. I asked to speak to numerous supervisors. Once I got to one supervisor, that's the only one they would transfer me to, and she wouldn't listen to anything I said. So since then, it's become a complete nightmare. It's caused issues trying to make sure that a household maintains their budgeting when they keep on sending outrageous bills and no answers and telling you that you're supposed to be getting a discount, and every time your bill just goes up instead. Just makes no sense between it. So that's the clarification that I have and what I can give to you from there. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Casper. Our next speaker is Christine Noble. Ms. Noble, are you on the line? If you called in, Ms. Noble, you can hit *3 on your phone, and that will raise your hand and we can call on you.
No raised hand. I do see the next person is here, though, if you're...
Next is Catherine Fisher.
Mm-hmm. It's spelled F-I-S-C-H.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Fisher, are you on the line?
I already spoke.
You already spoke, so just
Can hardly hear you, Ms. Fisher. If you speak up, we be able to capture your voice. Hello? Ms. Fisher?
Mr. White, she already spoke earlier.
Okay, we have her on have her on our list. Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much.
Our next speaker is Nate Jenny. Nate Jenny, are you on?
Probably because of.
If you called on your phone, you can hit *3 and raise your hand. All right, the next person signed up is NY Decker.
That one sounds like
That's
a joke.
Kathleen Decker. Yeah, I'm hearing someone on the line here. I'm trying to find out who's not muted. Eileen Decker. I think that the New York was put in the wrong spot.
Ah, Ms. Decker, please go ahead. All right. Next caller
Ms.
is
Decker. Kathleen Decker.
Hello?
There you are. Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
All right. That's okay. I live in Cayuga County. I have NYSEG. I have been on budget billing, auto pay, everything electronic. And my problem apparently started in July. The first time it came to my attention that there was a problem was in November when I didn't get a bill. And then I got another bill for incorrect amount. And anyway, I spoke to a NYSEG representative the end of November, who she looked into it. And I also, at that point, had really scrutinized my bills for the previous 4 months and realized that my meter readings were all off. Even the ones that said actual were for higher amounts than what we had gotten. My husband took a picture November 28th. So NYSEG went back, they reevaluated everything, and they said what had happened was it started with a problem back in July that somebody misread a meter or it got put in somehow, and the computer kept generating the amounts of the bills. And I said, how could the computer generate a bill when it's an actual reading? And they explained to me that if it didn't make sense, then the computer changed it. So I wound up the end of November with them doing all this recalculation because they continued to take my budget payments out automatically, that I had an overpay of $416. And at the end of November, they said, okay, it's all taken care of. Now that $416 forward, we'll just pay for your bills for the next couple of months. And I said, take it off budget, and then we'll recalculate everything when we get done. And look at it again and see make sure everything is working fine before I go back to budget. This has not happened. I've called 4 times. 4 times they said, oh, we fixed it. Never got bills. Called back again because it kept saying that I had a credit of $400. When I called back again, long story short, last night I called again, or yesterday, for the 5th or 6th time, told them I was going to talk to you today and that I wanted to know what the latest update was. This morning, they generated 7 bills on my portal that I was able to look at. I still think that there's a problem with it, but I have to follow up further, but at least my portal is back working. All those bills are generated. Again, the estimated readings are over, so they charge me a higher amount. But the problem seems to, what I saw was that the computer was just changing the meter readings, even on actual and on estimate, and just kept calculating it incorrectly. So that's the problem that I've had. I will go and file a formal complaint.
Thank you, Ms. Decker. Our next speaker is Edward Webster.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Edward Webster. I am a NYSEG customer in Ithaca, New York. My billing situation was pretty much normal. until June of this last year. I normally received the bill around the 1st of each month, and I paid it by the 20th. Starting in July, August timeframe, they estimated zero usage of my electric power. So when I sent them a reading in late September, the October bill came in and it was $505. That struck me as being a touch on the high side, but using the NYSEG application and also going online, I could not actually find a bill. There was no statement to see what the meter reading that they used was. I called and was told that they had an error in the reading and that would be corrected. So I actually paused on payment for a couple weeks. I called back and was told that was not the case. The bill was correct. So I paid it. I still did not actually see a statement at that time. Since then, I have received several more billings. Now, this is a summer cottage in Ithaca, and the billings ended up with a total over the summer that the billing is $450 more than I've ever paid over the course of the summer. And especially since my time there was actually shorter this year, I find that really surprising. I am not on budget billing. I have no solar. So my only issues that I want to make sure that you catch up on is the phone calls. And by the way, both phone calls took over 2 hours to be answered. And also the error in billing. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Our next speaker is Michael O'Connor.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. My name is Mike O'Connor. I'm the president of the Greater Rochester Association of Realtors, which our membership covers 13 counties. And basically, the issue that I'm calling about is primarily the fact that in many cases, when people buy or sell a house and they go to transfer the service, not disconnect the service, but call in for a final read or a transfer, no matter how it's expressed to the customer service rep, that in many cases, they end up coming out and turning the power off, disconnecting the power, which it should only be a transfer of service. Then what happens is you call in to try to get the power restored or reconnected. And not only is there a reconnection fee, but in many cases, you're told that it's going to be several days to a week before they can get back out there. And it's quite interesting how they're quick to come out and disconnect, slower to come out to reconnect. It almost seems like a customer service issue because the people, and I have witnessed this on the phone with my own clients, will make it very clear. I'm calling in to transfer service. And it seems like maybe the customer service reps are not listening or paying attention. And this is a real problem. It never used to happen, but it's been happening more and more the last couple of years. And we get a lot of complaints about it. We have 3,200 agents in our 13 county region. And the other issue is with new construction. I know that some of these builders are having trouble getting RG&E to come out and install meters in the properties so that they can continue with their new construction and get the power turned on so they can turn the property over to a new homeowner. So that is it. That's what I called in to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. What I'm going to do now is go back to our list of people that we called who did not speak and see if we can get any of them on the record. First up is Jan Taskberg. Jan, I think, was supposed to have called in on a telephone. You can raise your hand by hitting *3 if you were unable to do that before.
raised hand.
Next is Alexander Sweet, who also was to have called in on the telephone. I think I see.
We do have a raised hand.
Okay.
Do you want me to see if this is Jan? Jan, is this you? Speak up and we'll know it's you.
We do have Alexander Sweet showing is on a phone.
Alexander? Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So I've had lots of problems with NYSEG going back to 2018, but where I purchased a home, moved, and terminated service there, had service turned on in my new home. In 21, I got a collections notice. They said that I never turned off service and that it ran for almost 2 years before they turned it off, and I owed them like a $5,000 bill. And then apart from that, at my current home, my billing has been all over the place. Going back to 21, I received a bill. First bill for 21 was $312.21 for $241. I paid that. Didn't receive a bill again till June 3rd for credit of $78. And then on June 4th, I received a bill for $237, not billed again till October, where they billed me $483. And then I have not received a bill since October, or I had not received a bill since October. I called them several times, waited hours. I didn't have time to wait. Could never get a call back when I selected the callback option. In February, they sent me 7 bills. Starting at 248, then 518, 788, 1141, 1505, and eventually 2164. I called them, got on a payment plan because there was no way I could pay 2,164. The woman was rude to me. She told me that if I knew I should have been paying them, then I should have saved money aside or made small payments on them, because they don't have to bill us, but we still have to pay them. And then, so after that, I did not receive another bill until May of 22 for $3,777. A couple days later in June, I received one for $4,091. I made a payment of, I think, like $600 or something. July, I received a bill for another $4,000. I made another payment, never received a bill until September. It was for $796. And then I just received a bill now in January for $1,324. And I try to call them. I check my portal every month, but it's very difficult to get a hold of them. I work more than full time. I work overtime every week. So I don't have 5 or 6 hours that it takes to sit on the phone and wait for somebody. Or, I request a call back or I speak to somebody and they tell me, well, that's correct. Or, well, you should have been more conscientious calling us or sending us money even though you don't have a bill. And so I ask for a supervisor and I never get any call back.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lois Dearman. Ms. Dearman, if you called in, you can raise your hand by hitting *3. Lois Dearman?
You have a raised hand, but it was up before you called Miss Dearman.
Why don't you check and see who it is, Joe?
Sure, no problem. Your line has been unmuted, call-in user.
Hello?
Yes?
Hi, this is, well, I actually have, I guess, a couple of things.
Can you say and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Certainly, this is Brad Hess, Bradhess.
Thank you.
Colin, this has been going on a lot longer. I guess the major difference I see is this has been going on a lot longer than I hear the other callers saying. They pulled this with me, I'm going to say 6 to 8 years ago. I noticed I wasn't getting a bill from March 1st through July, and all of a sudden I got a bill for $1,200. Went on budget billing, and it seemed to be rectified. I was getting steady bills every month. I was paying weekly out of my paycheck, just so by the end of the month it was all paid. I had a credit. I was overpaying, so I would get a credit all the time. And then over the past 3 years, they've done it 4 times, where all of a sudden I just am not getting a bill, and then all of a sudden it's my fault, and they're throwing makeup bills at me. In fact, I was just looking at my account. In March of 2022, I've got 3 bills. In September, I've got 6 bills. I've frankly quite had enough. So this past month, I started checking, and I noticed all of a sudden my billing period is 22 days instead of the 30. So instead of making 4 payments to cover the bill, now I've got to make 3 payments to cover a bill, and they're getting more bills per year. No rhyme or reason to it, although I do see that they haven't sent me a bill for this month. Last bill was December 15th, due on January 7th, and I haven't received a bill yet for January. I'm sure they're going to be pulling a makeup billing session in February where I'll get, I don't know, $1,000 charged on the account, and all of a sudden I've got to pay it right up front. I don't understand how that can happen if you're on budget billing, when you should be getting a consistent bill every month, and then every 3 months they review it to adjust it up or down to what what the usage is. I guess the only other thing I'd like to say is this is the problem we get when we have a natural monopoly. They're the only option we have, and if I didn't know prior that we could complain to the state, so I'll be doing that on a regular basis, I'm sure, going forward. But if you don't like their service, there's nothing you can do. They're the only show in town, natural monopoly. Thank you for your time, and have good luck with this, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. Our next call-in from the beginning was Susan Sepkowski. Ms. Sepkowski, if you called in, you can raise your hand by hitting *3. Ms. Sepkowski?
It's hard to discern whose hand is raised at this point. If I have your permission to lower the hands and then ask one more time, please.
Yep, please lower them again, Joe.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, I'm coming back to Brian Schenk, who we called about an hour ago. Mayor Brian Schenk. I don't see him on our list. Mayor Schenk, if you called in, please raise your hand with *3.
We do have we have a few call-in users that are raising their hands. I don't know who they are, but as soon as I lower their hands, they put them right back up. So would you like
let's
me to
take
just
them
help
one
you?
by one, Joe.
Okay, I'll start with the bottom or the top here. You decide. We'll go with the call-in user. You've been unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Judy. Can you hear me?
Hi, Judy. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Can you spell
Yes,
your
my
last
name is.
say and spell your last
Yes.
name? Thank you.
My last name is spelled Duquette. My account is under my mother, Helen Halbritter, which is HALBRITTER. I gotta say we've been having trouble with our bill since June of last year. I had a bill of $3,715.31, and I, of course, called and they told me I am on a budget, and they told me the bill was so high because of a budget billing balance, which I paid. And then I got a telephone call from somebody from NYSEG encouraging me to go solar. So a little apprehensive, I signed up for solar, and I signed up supposedly with this Nautilus solar, and then all of a sudden I'm signed up with Eligo Energy, and they guaranteed me that, well, they told me I could knock my delivery supply charges down to 0.0799 cents. So did that reluctantly, and I just got a bill Okay, I get a bill every 2 months, and my bill this time after signing up for solar was $4,620.08. After looking on this, I called and waited for NYSEG for an hour and 59 minutes to talk to somebody, and they said I did use this. I haven't paid an electric bill since November of 2022 and kept saying, geez, I haven't gotten an electric bill. I haven't gotten an electric bill. And I get billed every 2 months. So this big one I called, I see that the billing is for Eligo Energy, which is the solar, and I'm being charged 24 cents a kilowatt hour. After calling them, they tell me that I've been transferred to a variable rate, and I used to be paying 0.0799 cents. So because NYSEG was talking me into going solar, I went solar, and yes, it looked like, but I don't see where I'm getting any solar credits or anything. So then on this 4,000 whopper of a bill, I've got this CDG subscription fee for November and December, and I'm getting a CDG value stack credit. And December 30th, it says value stack credit. I'm currently waiting for a phone call back from the Eligo Energy, who is trying to contact NYSEG to find out what these charges are for. But unfortunately, in the past, I've always been allowed to take my supply charges and have them billed out for the year. And unfortunately, this Eligo is like charging me, the Eligo portion of the bill was $3,504. And apparently through NYSEG, they want this all at once. It's just very confusing. I thought I was doing a good thing by changing to solar. I was so disappointed because I went from, I've never paid more than 14 cents per kilowatt hour, and with solar, I'm now paying 24 cents. I'm on a demand meter, and
ma'am, if you don't mind
like I said,
if you don't mind my breaking in, ma'am.
Yep.
We need you to call the Department of Public Service and file a complaint about this. As you may have guessed, this is not normal or proper behavior. So I don't know if you have a pen. I'll give you an 800 number to call.
Yep.
800 342 3377.
3377. And this is the
Department of Public Service. You will get one of my staff at the call center, and they will talk to you about this situation.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it for listening to me.
Thank you for calling in. To continue picking up our callers that were not there when we called them the first time around. See, we have Mayor David LeClaire. I don't see him in the list either. Let's see, I have an Arup Roy, who I think called in. Mr. Roy, if you hit *3 and raise your hand, we can call on you. Hello?
Unmuted. You can go ahead. Mr. Roy or Roop, Ms. Roy, you've been unmuted. There's something not quite right with the line.
Yeah, I think this is a cell phone problem.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute that line then.
Yep, and please try calling back, Mr. Roy. Let's try Mary Eddy, who I think also may have called in. Mary Eddy, last name.
Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I'm on my computer, actually.
Oh,
And
good.
I've been having trouble with NYSEG. I live in Chemung County since January. I never received a bill in January or February. I called on February 3rd and they said that all I owed was $135.96 and I paid that by check. Then I called back on June 2nd because I still hadn't received any bills. And they said all I owed was $213.05. I paid that by debit card. And the gentleman told me that I had about 2 months credit on 6/1. And I didn't have any access to NYSEG online, NYSEG.com, no paper bills, no email bills. They corrected my access so that I could get in there. And on 6/30, they said I owed $665.72 with no valid explanation. Still hadn't received any bills. I received my bills for March, April, and May on August 9th. And I paid $200 on July 1st and set up a payment agreement. I still hadn't received any paper bills. I couldn't see my bills online. I wasn't getting any emails. So I called again on August 9th. And I finally received an email for March, April, and May, and June, July, which I received in the mail. They had added a charge of $58 to each bill, even though I didn't set up the payment agreement until June. So for every bill that they sent me, I had an additional charge of $58 because it was a late payment. And then I was told on 8/9 that I needed to keep my budget payment separate from my payment agreement payment. And if I wanted to pay extra on the payment agreement, I would have to call them in. So on 8/17, I called and I paid my budget payment of $233 and asked to be transferred to the payment agreement department. And I paid $100 on the payment agreement, which my payment was only $58. So I was trying to pay extra on it to get rid of it. They said the balance on the payment agreement, if I paid extra, would be changing. And it never changed. And I called the Department of Public Service on September 16th, and they gave me a case number, but I never heard much back from them, other than someone called and said they couldn't tell me who they were, but they wanted to know if NYSEG was talking to me. So I told them, yeah, they're talking to me, but they're not really doing anything for me. And for months, I couldn't even access a bill. They wanted me to send payments on a bill that I wasn't even receiving. And because I didn't send payments for my monthly budget, which they said ended in March, I didn't even know they had set up a new budget for me after March because I hadn't received a single bill.
Yeah. Ma'am, if you could wrap up in about 15 seconds.
I basically want my $58 back, and they kept charging that to me for every month up until October. I sent a packet of information to Letitia James in October on the 3rd, and it had about 30 pages of information with it, copies of all my bills. None of the balances are correct. The budget payment isn't correct. The actual charges isn't correct. The amount that they billed me for my budget isn't correct.
Yep, Ms. Eddy, if you could wrap up, and someone from the department will reach out to you.
Okay. I appreciate you taking my call. I've been sitting here listening. I'm not surprised that everybody is having the same issue. I've talked to some people.
Yep.
Ma'am,
Thank you for calling in.
I'm gonna mute you now. We're gonna move on to the next caller. I don't mean to be rude, but we have a time limit for each speaker today because
Right. Thank
we
you
have a
so
little bit of a
much.
crunch. Yes, thank you so much. It was nice talking to you. You have a good day, ma'am. We'll take care of everything. Just give us a
Thank you.
call and we'll see what's going on.
Our next speaker is Patrick Murphy. And Mr. Murphy, if you called in on your phone, you can hit *3 and raise your hand. Let's move on to Harry Carabello. And I see a phone for...
Yeah, Terry's line's been unmuted.
Please go ahead.
I've been an RG&E customer for about 18 months. I live in a rural community, so I don't have a choice for another another gas and electric company. But as a customer, I expect consistent and reliable service. That's not in a consumable product alone, but in your customer service as well. And the degree of assistance I'm offered when I encounter a problem with you matters. So RG&E's poor responsiveness to issues has made me feel as though my concerns do not matter, but your company profits do. And I have received, or I didn't receive a bill for several months at a time, and then would get 10 bills for various amounts over the course of 1 week, which were incomprehensible to understand. So when you call into or when I would call into customer service, I would get repeatedly passed from one service rep to another without resolution, which sends a message that I'm the problem. I'm not being heard. My time is of no value, and that RG&E is not interested in solutions. So I feel like accessibility, kindness, and respect to your customer should matter, and that RG&E is sending a message that they just simply don't possess these qualities. So I filed a complaint with the state, which after some time I did get an answer back from, which basically was just a phone call. It wasn't really any resolution again. So my question would be, how quickly will RG&E implement a plan to retrain some of their customer service representatives, overhaul their billing policies, and update their meters? And is it your plan to pass along those costs to us as your customers? So thank you for your time today and your attention to these matters, and I look forward to some positive changes.
Thank you, Ms. Carabello. Our next speaker is Isais Soto.
You've been unmuted. It's I'm going to go to the next person if you don't mind.
Okay. Our next caller is Rai Ramnaras, and forgive me if I mispronounced her name.
Go ahead. You've been unmuted.
Yeah, I'm here. It's Rai Ramnaras, and thanks for the time. My experience has really been around an outsourced company from. Well, let me explain it. We use solar panels on our house, and on my NYSEG bill, there is a line that refers to solar usage. I called NYSEG and they referred me to NYSERDA. I called and NYSERDA referred me to Concord. Concord is an outsourced service that NYSERDA uses to service the the solar bills and loans and things like that. So my concern here is that I have reached out to Concord many times and I do not get a response. I've emailed Concord. I have written Concord, and I have called Concord. Now, when I call Concord, the response is, okay, put it in an email and we'll respond to you in 71 days. 71 days is absolutely ridiculous just to get a response to my inquiry. And in the meantime, they keep sending bills, and I have no response. I've been requesting responses since October of 2022, and my inquiries just go nowhere. So that is my concern, and if you have any feedback for me, I'd be glad to hear it.
Thank you. Our next caller is Melissa Washburn.
Is it possible that Ms. Washburn called in?
Ms. Washburn, if you called in, you can unmute yourself by hitting *3. Let me keep moving. Our next caller is Mary White. Ms. White, if you called in, you can unmute yourself by hitting *3. Sorry, you can raise your hand by hitting *3 on your cell phone.
Not seeing a raised hand for Ms. White.
Next, we have Michael Allinger, Supervisor Michael Allinger. I see him listed as a phone call.
Yep, he's been unmuted.
Good. Go ahead, Mr. Allinger.
Michael Allinger. Hello? I'm not sure what happened there. I had him unmuted. And then that went dead.
Mr. Allinger?
Let me try again. No, can you hear us, Mr. Allinger? Not hearing anything.
Okay, let's move on then to Betty Thomas. Ms. Thomas, if you called in, you can raise your hand.
She's on, Your Honor. Or
Got
she's
it.
on.
Go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
Okay, I've been sitting here for an hour or so, listening to all of the complaints, and mine is pretty much no different. The bills not being read, and then calling and getting told that there's a zero balance. Next bill is $1,700. You can't get a hold of anybody to talk to, and now they have set a new budget for $445, and no one says they can do anything about it, which I know is a complete joke because I worked at this utility. And the whole thing is because they have lowered their standards due to letting a foreign country come in to buy them. And they have an agent to take care of their corrupt people that isn't worth a dime. My question is, what are you going to do with these complaints that you're hearing?
Ms. Thomas, we are taking complaints tonight. We're not answering them. However, I would suggest that you go to the matter number 23-00068 at the Department of Public Service website, where next steps will be laid out after we finish the forums next week. Thank you.
I see. Also have another question. Who do you answer to as far as your boss?
While I won't be answering questions generally, as a state agency, we answer to the governor.
Okay, so I'll let go of that, but go back to the complaint of them saying they can't change a budget. And girl said, well, the manager has to do this and we'll call back, which he never did. So all of the other complaints, and I'm sure you got hundreds and we'll get hundreds more, can't possibly be answered at one time. So what's going to be the result of all this?
Ms. Thomas, my name is Joe. I'm running the hearing today for the director. We have a process here at the Public Service Commission where we can take a case for you. I could have somebody give you a call back if you'd like, and they could they can walk you through the process, and you'll get a formal complaint, and we'll go from there. How does that sound?
That's great.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You have a great day. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Let me go back to the 3 elected officials that we called about an hour and a half ago. Mayor Brian Schenk, Supervisor Michael Ferrara, and Mayor David Leclerc. Are any of you 3 elected officials on the line with us?
Did you say Michael Allinger?
Michael Allinger.
Is that an elected official? Or?
That was not one of the folks I just called, but we did have.
So
He's Supervisor Michael Allinger. Is he on?
Yes, he is. Yep. We tried to unmute him before, but there was nothing. Okay. Michael Allinger, are you available? I just unmuted you. Michael, you're muted on your end, I believe, because you're not muted on our end, so we should be able to hear you. Supervisor Allinger? Okay, still nothing. Director.
Okay, if for some reason you called in today and were unable to provide comments for the record because of technical difficulties with your phone, please try calling back tonight. We'll be starting up at 6 o'clock in the evening. And other than that, we have tried calling everyone that we called on earlier that tried to speak earlier on. So at this point, let me take a look at our list of attendees. Let's try Arup Roy. Joe?
Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you for.
Well, okay. Thank you for the call back. But I'm actually on the computer, and I don't know why I was not able to connect. So I'm actually looking at the screen.
Okay. So, well, please go ahead and give us your public comment.
So
yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So my I'm with we are with NYSEG in Saratoga County, and we just received a bill for January that has the supply charge rate gone up by 80%. And there was no communication on that. We didn't hear anything on TV, on the news. So we're shocked with the bill because just like I said, the supply charge rate went up by 80%. And what my wife saw also was on the news was that there has been another request for a rate hike coming up soon. So we're not sure what's going on with this rates. Our understanding was that rate hikes are typically announced or communicated. So that was one thing. And the second point was NYSEG seems to We seem to have power losses fairly frequently for about 10-15 seconds, which then, creates a problem on a lot of the appliances that we have. Now, we've had 2 refrigerator failures in 8 years, and we keep wondering if this is due to power surges because of this going on. But other than that, NYSEG has been fairly regular with us on billing and charges, but this was a shocker for us with an 80% increase in the supply charge rate. I'm not sure if that was authorized or what is going on. And again, thank you for holding this forum. I'm glad that I was able to talk to you folks.
Thank you. We're glad you're able to finally get in. And for those of you who are still on the phone, supply charges are not under regulation by the Department of Public Service. Those charges are set on a global energy market. Utilities in the state of New York buy energy from those markets, and they are required by law not to mark up the cost of that energy. The increase in the cost in the supply markets for electric and gas has a lot to do with the unrest in the global supply chains, the war in Europe and Ukraine, and a number of other things on the global markets, but not anything that we do in the state of New York. We have a New York Anderson with a hand up. You want to try and unmute them, Joe?
Sure, no problem. Let me just find, we have a lot of hands up now. We have, were you looking for a LeBlanc before, or is that last name LeBlanc? Was that someone you were looking for?
Let me go back and look.
I don't see the New York hand anymore. I think that's gone.
All right, let's see. I don't have any LeBlancs, but
I see the New York. There is a caller that has their hand up that is not that's just displaying call-in user, and it could have been somebody you called on. So do you want me to unmute that person? There's a few.
I'm sorry. I called on them already, Joe?
Well, I don't know because they're call-in user and it's not showing who they are. It's just showing a phone number.
Do we have any hands up from folks who are on the computer and we can see their name?
Oh yeah, lots of folks.
Okay, let's take the folks who are on the computer.
All right, I'll start with Scarlett Vinson then. The name is spelled Vinson.
Vinson, okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. I'm really glad you guys are having this hearing. Thank you so much. I did use solar credits for a while. I was really excited that that was offered in my area. However, I was having a really hard time receiving bills and paying bills. I would try to pay the bill and it wouldn't go through, and it was month after month I went through this, and finally I had to stop using solar. Unfortunately, I was really excited about it. But with the billing problems I was having, I had to discontinue that. Last April of 2021, I received a bill for $400, and I called then and said, wow, like my bill's usually like $87. What's going on? And they couldn't explain it. They said something was having a really huge power draw. I never did get an explanation, or they said it was an estimate before and now it was an actual reading, but really it was like more than 4 times as high as what I usually use a month. Didn't make any sense. I'm just finishing the payment plan that we broke that into almost a year ago. So my bill is usually about $100 a month. I received a bill a few weeks ago that said it was 180 something, and I thought, well, that's kind of high. And so I called them, and they asked me to go out and do a reading. I didn't even know, but I had a new smart meter, so I tried to read them the smart meter numbers, which were blinking and a little hard to read when they're blinking on and off. And so I got the lady on the phone was very nice, but she didn't know what that meant. She didn't know if it was high or low. She had no idea how that would affect my bill. So I got a new bill. The new bill was for $320. And I was like, wow, what is going on here? So I called again and I asked for a supervisor. Same experience as other people. I was on hold for over an hour, about an hour and 20 minutes. And I finally got a hold of somebody and I said, are you a supervisor? And they said, no. So they put me back on hold for another 20 or 30 minutes. And I finally got a hold of a supervisor who just said, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, and he took I said, you need to send someone out to do an actual meter reading, because maybe I didn't read it right. That doesn't make any sense. And so he said, well, it's just like a leaky pipe. If you use that much power, it's up to you to pay it. And I was like, I haven't changed anything. I've lived here 6.5 years. I use very minimal power in my house. Nothing's changed. And basically he said, I was responsible for it and I had no option other than the payment agreement, but he did send someone out to look at the meter, and the next bill I got was for $680 something. So we're going for where my bill is, $80 a month or $100 a month to they are charging me $680 for 1 month of power. When I did speak with someone again, that supervisor, he looked into it and says, looks like you used as much power in the last 5 days as you use an entire month. And I said, well, what is doing that? There's nothing's changed, nothing's happened. And he said it was up to me to find an electrician and figure it out. I was going on vacation, first time I've ever met a brother, and I went out of town. I called about 10 different electricians and couldn't get them out to my house. Nobody's responding on that end. So potentially right now, I'm spending, $500 every few days on my electricity bill, and I really can't afford even the $200 bill that came was pretty high, but now I'm up to like $700 plus for my utility usage when nothing has changed and no one can explain what's different. The only thing that I can see that's different is I got a smart meter, and ever since then I've been having trouble with my readings. They don't communicate with the power company directly yet, so they have no idea. They said that will be in full effect in 2025, but right now I'm just I'm at their mercy, I guess you could say. They're just saying I owe, $700 for 7 days or 9 days of usage or whatever,
Yep,
and
Ms.
no way to
Vincent, if you
stop it.
could wrap up, please.
Yep, I'm finished. I would like to know how to go about, rather than just ending this call and saying thanks for listening, and which I really appreciate. What should I do? In my case, do I make a formal complaint?
Yes, you can call our 800 number and file a complaint. And again,
Okay.
that number is 800-342-3377.
Okay, can you post that on the screen, please?
I think we can.
Okay, I just don't have a way to write that down right now.
Here's a public comment screen. Hmm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in.
Richard, we could give
yeah.
out the website address. It's www.dps.ny.gov. And /complaints will get you right to the complaint page.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erin, and thanks again, Ms. Vincent. Joe, can you unmute Teresa Hotte, Hotte?
Afternoon, and thank you to the Public Service Commission and the Department of Public Service staff for organizing today's public forum. My name is Teresa Hotte, and I'm a staff attorney with the Public Utility Law Project, also known as PULP. PULP is a 40-year-old nonprofit with the mission of educating, advocating, and litigating on behalf of New York State's low-income utility customers. PULP participates in rate cases and policy proceedings as parties before the New York State Department of Public Service. PULP, like legal aid, also offers direct services to low-income individuals with utility problems, including how to resolve termination notices, what financial assistance programs they may be eligible for, how to rate their bills, and more. The Public Service Law, which governs regulated utilities like NYSEG and RG&E, requires all charges made or demanded by any gas or electric corporation to be just and reasonable, and not more than allowed by law. Every unjust or unreasonable charge made or demanded for gas or electricity is prohibited. Accurate and timely billing is expected and required of regulated utilities, and PULP is concerned that these expectations have not been met. We thank the Department of Public Service and the Public Service Commission for hearing the complaints of NYSEG and RG&E customers and acting swiftly to investigate these issues. While the investigations continue, if customers have concerns with their bills, that they're inaccurate, we at PULP encourage you to speak with the company. And if you cannot connect with their customer service staff after calling, or you're unable to reach a resolution and still have concerns about your bills, you have the right to file a complaint, as has been mentioned, with the Department of Public Service. And I'll give their number one more time. It's 800-342-3377. PULP is monitoring this process and will remain in touch with the public and elected officials to see that long-term solutions are reached as quickly as possible. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you. Joe, if you could unmute Melanie Fuller.
Hello?
Go ahead, Ms. Fuller.
My issue started back in July when I received actually two bills for the same billing period from NYSEG. And then I received a zero amount bill. Then my next bill was for over $300. The bill after that was for $407.83. When I went to when I called NYSEG, they told me there was really nothing they could actually explain to me. So my husband and I actually went down to the office. The lady told me that she was not going to help me with any prior bills, but only the current bill. And I asked if I could have my meter read every month instead of an estimation. They told me no. I now am being told that I have to take a photo of my meter and take it down to the office on the months that they will estimate my bill, and that they will generate a bill right there for me. The office is 45 minutes from me. That's not like, for everybody that lives in the rural areas, that's not convenient to them. I did make a formal complaint on the DPS website as well as the Better Business Bureau. I have yet to hear from NYSEG on any of those. So am I right with making the formal complaint on the website?
You're finished, Melanie?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that I was right with doing the formal complaint on the
Oh yeah,
website.
you could go ahead and file a complaint. Sure, for sure. You can call our call center as well and speak directly to us if
I
you
appreciate
choose
you
to do
guys'
that.
time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melanie. You have a great day, Ms. Fuller.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And if you can unmute Larry Newberger, Joe.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hear you,
Yep,
Mr.
you could
Newberg.
speak up a little bit, please.
Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to just let you know my situation. I with RG&E, but I get my electric through Arcadia, and RG&E hasn't billed Arcadia since October. And I have to, I get an email every month, and I have to tell them what's happening so they don't shut my power off. And every time I call RG&E, they just say it's a computer glitch, it'll be fixed. I sent a note to billing. Last time I got a hold of a supervisor, but then they put me on full hold. I was on hold for almost 40 minutes, and I just gave up. And I know, like, when the bill does come, I'm not going to be able to afford it. I'm looking at close to 4 months of no bills.
Thank you. Do you have anything more?
Not really. I mean, really, that was it. It's just, 4 months of no bills and just calling and them saying, it's a glitch, we'll fix it. And then every month I have to keep calling, and I have no clue what my bills are ever going to be.
Understood.
Or if I can afford it.
Thank you for calling in and giving us your public comment.
All right, thank you.
Joe, if you can unmute Ava Pierce, who I think has been trying very hard to get back into the queue.
Yes, unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, if you could speak up a little bit, please.
Hello?
Ms. Pierce?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay. I live in Owego, New York, and I have two properties.
You faded out, Ms. Pierce.
Okay, I live in Owego, New York. I have not received a nice bill since October. I called NYSEG. They told me usage my account.
We're having a hard time hearing you, ma'am. Where is the microphone that you're speaking into?
On my
Where?
phone.
Right there. Right. You're close. When you're close to it, we can hear you just fine. It's when you move away from it that we can't hear you. Are you close to the
Can
microphone?
you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I called NYSEG 3 times because I have not received a bill since October. I was told the first time that because of the
We keep losing your signal. Would you mind if we gave you a ma'am?
later, and the third time I was told, just don't worry about it, we'll get it taken care of. After hearing everybody else's comments, I am scared to death what this bill is going to look like when I finally get around. And I appreciate you taking the time here to do this, and I hope this situation gets resolved. As the other gentleman said, this is some sort of competition, so we have somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in, Ms. Pierce. We have a L. LeBlanc. Can you unmute them, Joe?
Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Brindisi. I am a resident of town of Ithaca, so we use NYSEG. And my situation, I thought it was resolved, and thank God I received an email from Tompkins County to come to this because my situation was unique, but I think it's going to help others and hopefully us as well. What happened was this past late summer, I received a text message from NYSEG that said they wanted me to start manually entering my meter reads, and or else they would just estimate. So I went, okay, this is weird, but okay. So I was sending these meter readings in, and about a month later, I received. I noticed that I wasn't getting a bill, so I looked online and it said I had a credited account of plus 400. So I went, luckily, I said, there's no way. That never happens with NYSEG. They're a nightmare. So I called, and come to find out, a gentleman named Keith said, yeah, it looks like you actually owe $800 and something because you were giving wrong meter reads and the bills haven't been spit out yet. So everything's messed up. But I'm going to take care of it, and I'm going to call you tomorrow. This was on a Thursday. On Friday, he never called. I called and called and called. I couldn't get through to anybody. Spoke to a woman who said, call back Monday and speak to the supervisor. I called back Monday. The supervisor said their system was conveniently down for 2 days, and she couldn't look any information up. During that time, over the weekend, I all of a sudden was signed. I got an email saying you've been signed up for auto direct pay deposit or withdrawal. And then a few minutes later, I got a notification that they took, I think, $1,600. It might have been $1,400. I have it on record somewhere. So finally, when I got a hold of the supervisor on that Tuesday, I said, not only was I told that I owed minus 400, but it then became 800. Then somebody was supposed to call me, and then you guys conveniently signed yourselves up for auto deduction, and you took $1,600 from my family. Finally, I thought I had it worked out, and they basically said, hey, don't worry about it. Now that $1,600 has been taken care of, you do have a credit of the plus whatever, and so you're covered until October, and then we'll start deducting again. And that did happen. And I thought this was resolved, but when I received the email from Tompkins County and realized that this was an ongoing issue, I don't know what that $1,600 was from, because they said it was wrong readings. But how do I know they went back and did the right readings? It's a mess, and I'm really glad you guys are doing something, and I'm hoping you can help us and others.
Well, thank you very much. Could you spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
Yeah,
please?
so it's Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Brindisi, and it's B-R-I-N-D-I-S-I.
Thank you for your patience today, for waiting to speak to us. You have a good day.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. And we're going to take one more speaker because we're half an hour over the end of the public forum. For everybody who has called in today and unfortunately we're unable to get to, we have, I believe, less people signed up for tonight. And so if you call back at 6 o'clock, you should be able to get in then. Let's take Mr. LeBlanc if he is still waiting online for us.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lorna LeBlanc, and we have been having problems with NYSEG since 2020, and I think the elephant in the room is ever since Ibertrola took over NYSEG and RG&E. There's been issues. We also run a small heating and cooling company, so we're always calling to get like cutoffs and meter pulls and things like that. So it took us 6 attempts to get a standby generator in to get the meter in. I had the NYSEG office switch accounts at the office so that I got a huge bill for a vacant apartment. So we have rental properties too. And nothing for the people that were running the air conditioner 24/7. They didn't believe me. I spoke with a Mark in customer service. He suggested there were squatters. Impossible. Finally, they came out and rectified it, saying that yes, the accounts had been switched somehow at the office. I had a tenant whose first meter read was like $12,000, a single guy that just moved in. Turns out the meter reader did it incorrectly. Every time you call, you wait at least an hour, you get disconnected. We had been requested to send in meter readers to the email, and that information never gets put in, and they openly admit it if you follow up. They say they've got the email, but it never got entered in. We have had bills for zero amount for a long time, like everybody else, and then large bills after that. In one case, we had a brand new meter put in from one of our tenants, and it was not working. It was literally stuck, electric meter at zero, and boy, did we get service then. They came out like that day to fix that because it wasn't reading anything. So these are these constant problems that everybody else is talking about that we are experiencing too.
Thank you. All right, we have gone half an hour over. I'd like to thank everybody who came out tonight and provided us with public comments for the Department of Public Service to work on as we continue to look into these billing issues and meter reading issues at NYSEG RG&E. I just want to tell everybody who's on the phone and not on the computer, you can send in public comments by mail to the Honorable Michelle Phillips, Secretary, Public Service Commission, 3 Empire State Plaza, Albany, New York, 12223. You can also call in by phone to make a public comment, 800-335-2120, or if you go to www.dps.ny.gov, you can file a public comment there too. And thank you for your time and your interest in this issue and for representing your community tonight. And I call this public forum to an end. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you at 6.
We're off the record. Anthony, I believe we're off the record now.
Yes, thank you, Anthony.
Absolutely. We are off the record.